Okay, so it's 7:12 a.m. You just woke up, and before you've even had a coffee, you're doing the international sacred ritual, closing the bathroom door, locking it, maybe even turning on the fan for ambiance, which is really just white noise so your roommate doesn't hear anything. You get a solid 20 minutes in there, brushing your teeth, doing your skincare, scrolling your phone on the toilet like it's a spa retreat you paid for. Later, you'll want 15 private minutes to cry about something dumb or vent to your best friend in a group chat that better stay muted forever. You'll close doors, you'll whisper, you'll mouth "call you later" across a room instead of saying anything real. Privacy isn't a luxury for you. It's basically a human right you've never had to fight for. You've got walls, you've got locks, you've got a phone with a passcode and a group chat that's basically a witness protection program for your thoughts. You assume this is just how being a person works. Spoiler, for 300,000 years, it very much was not. If you like having doors, subscribe now before I convince you that doors are a recent scam. Now snap your fingers, delete every door you've ever known, and drop yourself 300,000 years into the past. No walls, no locks, no bathroom fan pretending to be a white noise machine. Just you, about 40 other people, one fire, and a shared living space roughly the size of your studio apartment, except everyone in it can see, hear, and smell everything you do, forever. Welcome home. Let's start with the basics. Where did people even live? Early humans in the Middle Paleolithic weren't building suburban homes with a guest bathroom. Most groups lived in open rock shelters, caves, or simple structures made of branches, hides, and mammoth bone in colder regions. One shared fire, one shared sleeping area, that's it. No hallway, no spare room to process your emotions in. If you wanted to sleep, eat, argue, grieve, or give birth, you were doing it in the same 20 square feet as your entire extended family. And here's the kicker. This wasn't a design flaw. It was a survival strategy. Shared warmth meant nobody froze at night. Shared eyes meant nobody got eaten by something with teeth while they slept. Privacy, in the way you understand it, would have gotten you killed. The group was the safety system. Now let's talk bathroom habits, because yes, we're doing this. There was no toilet. There was no door. Waste disposal was usually handled at a distance from the sleeping and eating area. Groups seem to have intuitively created activity zones based on archaeological site patterns showing separate clusters for tool-making, food prep, and refuse. So there was a version of separation, just not privacy in the emotional sense. It was spatial hygiene, not modesty. Bathing worked similarly. If you lived near a river or water source, you washed there, in the open, often with other women, because doing anything alone in the wild, especially something that made you vulnerable, like bathing, was a genuinely bad idea. A splashing, distracted human near a riverbank was an easy meal for a predator. So women bathed in groups the same way you'd never go camping alone in bear country. Safety in numbers wasn't a cute saying, it was the entire operating system. Here's the one that'll really recalibrate your idea of personal space: childbirth. Today, you get a private room, a door, maybe a birthing playlist and a partner holding your hand while everyone else waits outside. Back then, you gave birth in the same shared space everyone lived in, sometimes with other women assisting directly, because a first-time birth with zero medical knowledge and zero privacy needed all the help it could get. There was no modesty buffer. Other women held you, helped position you, and yes, everyone within 20 feet probably knew exactly what was happening in vivid, unfiltered detail. And when it went wrong, which historically it did, Often, the community response was immediate because there was no time to be modest about a life-threatening situation. Privacy would have cost lives. Community assistance saved them. Here's the twist. Privacy isn't actually a human need. It's a human invention, a byproduct of having enough walls, wealth, and safety to afford the luxury of being alone. For most of human history, being seen wasn't a violation, it was survival insurance. So next time you lock that bathroom door and sigh in blissful solitude, just know you're living a luxury your ancestors would have considered borderline reckless. Subscribe if your bathroom door just got a new level of respect. And stick around, because next time, how early humans dealt with periods, with zero pads, zero tampons, and zero shame to hide behind.
All right, let's get into it. Periods. You've got pads, tampons, cups, heating pads, and a notes app reminder that says, cycle starts in 3 days, brace yourself. Early women had absorbent plant material, moss, soft bark fibers, grasses. Whatever was locally available and reasonably absorbent got repurposed. There's no perfectly preserved 300,000-year-old tampon sitting in a museum, so we're working partly from archaeological inference and partly from ethnographic comparisons to more recent hunter-gatherer societies, which used similar plant-based methods well into the modern era. And privacy? There wasn't a special hut for it in this era. That menstrual hut tradition shows up more clearly later in specific documented cultures, not necessarily 300,000 years ago. So realistically, managing your period probably happened the same way everything else did, in the open, with other women fully aware, because pretending it wasn't happening wasn't an option when you're sharing one fire and one sleeping area with 30 other people. Now here's a fun one. Intimacy. Today, you need a locked door, maybe a do not disturb sign, definitely some warning text to roommates. Back then, with one shared living space and zero soundproofing, intimacy almost certainly happened with other people nearby, awake or asleep. Anthropologists studying modern-day hunter-gatherer groups with similar communal living arrangements have noted that couples developed subtle behavioral cues: quietness, discretion, choosing certain hours as a social norm. Essentially, an unspoken agreement to politely ignore what was happening a few feet away. It wasn't that privacy didn't matter emotionally, it clearly did. It's that the physical infrastructure for privacy simply didn't exist. So people built social privacy instead of architectural privacy, a kind of communal, unspoken, I didn't see anything agreement. What about the emotional stuff? Crying, falling apart, having a rough day and needing 5 minutes alone to just lose it. That luxury barely existed. If you were sick, injured, grieving, or having what we'd now call a mental health crisis, it happened in full view of the group, because the group was your support system. There was no bedroom to retreat to. Evidence from burial practices at Paleolithic and later Neolithic sites, including deliberate grave goods and burials like those at Shanidar Cave in Iraq, suggests communal emotional processing was actually built into group life. Grief wasn't private. It was shared, visible, and processed together, often through communal mourning behaviors, because there was no alternative. In a strange way, humans back then were forced into something we now pay therapists to help us do: process emotions out loud in front of witnesses instead of alone in silence. Here's something that'll mess with your head a little. That deep, instinctive feeling you have, I need privacy for this specific thing, isn't hardwired into human biology the way you think. Cross-cultural anthropological research shows massive variation in what different societies consider private versus public. Some cultures historically had zero taboo around communal nudity or bathing, while considering other things like eating in front of certain people deeply private. In other words, modesty isn't one universal rule book humans are all born with. It's a set of local house rules. And 300,000 years ago, the house rules were built entirely around group survival, not personal comfort. Now, before you picture early humans as one giant oversharing group hug 24/7, there were pockets of privacy. Some evidence from later Paleolithic sites shows spatial separation for specific tasks: tool-making zones, food processing areas, sleeping clusters organized by family unit rather than one giant undivided mass. So it wasn't total chaos. Groups seemed to naturally create soft boundaries using distance and positioning rather than walls and doors. Sit 10 feet away from the fire instead of 2 feet, and that was your version of closing the door. Subtle, spatial, socially understood, no lock required. Just an unspoken agreement that if you moved to the edge of the group, people left you alone. So maybe privacy was never really missing back then, it just looked completely different. It wasn't a locked door. It was 10 feet of dirt and an unspoken social contract that said, I see you and I'm choosing not to look. So yeah, next time you get annoyed waiting for the bathroom, remember, somewhere 300,000 years ago, a woman would have killed for that door. Metaphorically. Because murder over a door would have defeated the whole safety in numbers thing. Subscribe if your bathroom door just earned a new level of respect. And stay tuned for part 3, where we wrap this whole thing up with the most brutal comparison yet.
Let's talk parenting, because this one's a doozy. Today, you can hand your toddler a tablet, close your bedroom door, and pretend for 4 glorious minutes that you are not, in fact, responsible for a small human being. Early women didn't get that. Childcare was constant, communal, and completely public. Babies were carried, breastfed, and soothed in full view of the entire group, all day, every day, because there was nowhere else to be. But here's the actual upside. This wasn't just women handling it alone in public, it was shared labor. Anthropologists call this cooperative breeding, a pattern still seen in modern hunter-gatherer societies like the Hadza and Ung, where grandmothers, aunts, and even unrelated group members regularly nurse, carry, and care for children who aren't biologically theirs. So while you're Googling, is it normal for my toddler to only eat crackers alone at 2 in the morning, early mothers had an entire built-in support squad watching, correcting, and pitching in constantly. No privacy, but also, crucially, no isolation. Now imagine having an argument with your partner, your sister, or your annoying cousin, and there's no bedroom to slam a door in, no I need space retreat. Every disagreement in early human groups happened with an audience, which sounds like a nightmare, but researchers studying small-scale societies suggest this actually forced faster conflict resolution. You couldn't stew silently for 3 days in separate rooms, refusing to make eye contact. The group needed you functioning, cooperating, and hunting or gathering again within hours, not days. So arguments tended to get resolved quickly, loudly, and publicly, sometimes with other group members literally stepping in to mediate on the spot. It's basically built-in couples therapy, except the therapist is your uncle, he's also hungry, and he wants this resolved before dinner. Let's go somewhere heavier for a second. Dying. Today, death is often private. Hospitals, curtain rooms, a quiet hallway where family waits outside. Back then, dying happened the way everything else did, in the open, surrounded by the entire group, because there was no separate room to be moved into. Archaeological evidence from sites showing deliberate burial, bodies placed in specific positions, sometimes with flowers or tools nearby, suggests death wasn't hidden away or sanitized. It was witnessed, processed, and mourned communally, immediately, by everyone present. There was no breaking the news later. The entire group experienced loss together in real time, which meant grief wasn't something you carried alone in a quiet room. It was distributed, shared weight, right from the very first moment. Let's do the real math here, because that's the whole point of this channel. Your modern privacy costs you a house or apartment, walls, doors, locks, plumbing, and roughly 0 seconds of thought, because it's just there. Early humans' version of privacy cost them careful social negotiation, spatial positioning, group trust, and constant awareness of who was nearby and why. Yours is instant and effortless. Theirs was earned, negotiated, and maintained daily through relationships. In terms of raw physical effort, modern privacy wins easily. You just close the door. But in terms of social skill and community building, early humans were doing advanced level emotional labor every single day just to get 5 minutes of personal space, using nothing but trust and body language. You've automated it. They had to earn it. So here's the real gut punch insight. Privacy didn't make early humans weaker. Its absence made them stronger, together. The very thing you consider a basic human right, being alone, is actually a modern luxury built on centuries of accumulated safety, wealth, and walls. For 300,000 years, humans didn't need privacy to feel safe. They needed each other. And weirdly, they probably felt less alone than a lot of us do now behind our very private, very locked, very quiet doors. So next time you lock your door, take a breath and enjoy 5 minutes of glorious, uninterrupted, completely modern silence. Just remember, somewhere 300,000 years ago, a woman got through childbirth, grief, arguments, and everything in between with absolutely none of that. And somehow, she was still doing better with people around her than you are alone, doom-scrolling on the toilet. Subscribe now if this made you side-eye your own bathroom door a little. And come back next time because we're diving into how early humans handled periods, with 0 pads, 0 tampons, and 0 shame to hide behind. Trust me, it's messier than you think, in every sense of the word.